Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Mike and Peter talking about mental health and well-being in the legal profession. One of the videos we did previously had a comment from one of those watching it, and she asked, is the partnership model actually the root of the problem? And, it's a good question. I know from my old industry which was consultancy, where the big consultancies have partners. You get promoted to becoming a partner. You then almost run your own business within the business with your own targets. You have a pool of young and older consultants that you really want because they're good, and so does everybody else. So there's a fight for who you can get. There's pressure to perform, pressure to deliver. You're supposed to have some time for personal development and professional development, which people often don't take because they haven't got time, because they're on projects all the time. So from a mental health perspective and a job quality perspective, that doesn't always work. But in the legal industry, what I've heard as complaints, and this is where I love to hear your comments on this, Mike, is you become a partner. It's a promotion thing. And then you're the boss. But do you have any idea what it means to be the boss? Do you have any leadership skills? Or if you become the equity partner, so you had a lump sum that you could invest in the company, and now you have gained status as equity partner. But does that make you a good leader?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. It's a very provocative question. I think that and I don't really have a great perspective outside of the law. I was a consultant for a couple of years before I went to law school, but otherwise my experience has been, in the legal field. I guess my first reaction is I don't know that it's that different from other fields, but that doesn't mean that we don't have some work to do and some improving that we can do. I think the question reminds me of this principle I read about, which is an actual business principle, but I think it's also a little bit of tongue-in-cheek. It's called the Peter Principle, which is the observation that in most organizations, like corporations, that employees basically rise through the hierarchy through promotion until they reach a level of basically incompetence. And it's just I think it speaks to the fact that when you're a good associate and you do good work, and you're seen as having the ability to both do good work and run matters and also bring in business, you're promoted to partner. And I think in the ideal world, you're also trained in how to do that. I think in the actual world, that's inconsistent. I think sometimes, and thinking about my own experience when I first made partner at my prior law firm, there were a lot of things that I was being asked to do that were really different and that I had no training or idea of how to do. I was good at being an associate and doing research and writing briefs and taking depositions and thinking about cases. But then there's this whole other piece of managing a business and, sending out bills and collecting revenues and reading financial reports and accounts receivable, that I was like, it was all completely foreign to me. And I do remember, that was incredibly stressful to all of a sudden, okay, here's the AR report, go collect. And I was like, I don't even know what AR is. So I think that's a sort of training issue, but a really important one. And I do think that in law firms, although it's my only area of expertise, so I can't really speak as to whether it's only a legal issue, but partners are asked to do a lot of things. They're asked to do the work, run the matters, but also to sort of manage the business and do business development and do billing and collection. It's a lot of different tasks, and they're very different. So I do think that is a source of stress.
And then when you look at all this research that's out there, it looks at the associates and the paralegals. I don't see any piece of research that has specifically looked at what's it like to be a partner. We always hear about how bad the partners are, but we don't hear why they are so bad. Because what you just described there, Mike, was, yeah, you got elevated to a higher position, but with no preparation whatsoever. It was just taken for granted that you knew how to do all of those things. And then you get to that level of incompetence, not in your legal abilities, but in your running a business abilities, where you have to pick things up incredibly fast.
Yeah.
just like me running my own business. I know I'm good at what I do, but I have to also be pretty competent in all the other things that come with the job, which
Yeah.
don't enjoy some of them, and some I can start to outsource. But you know, when you are under pressure, your regard for other people tend to go out the window very quickly. Like when stocks go down, empathy goes out as well.
I
So
mean, yeah.
yeah.
I think also just, and I think about, I've been speaking at law schools a bunch lately. And you're right, a lot of people, when you talk about big law and mental health or law firms and mental health, there is a lot of focus on associates and their well-being and working too many hours and always beyond and these unreasonable partners that have these demands. I think there are different pressures that are on partners that are maybe a little bit less talked about, but those pressures can be really immense, right? When you're a business owner and there's pressure, it's just different. It's a different source of stress. And I do think that it highlights that we could do a better job training and preparing folks. I think it's not a new thing to throw out there that, a lot of lawyers are not considered to be very good business managers. I think, that's a pretty common thing that you hear. And I do think that, you mentioned, you hear about partners and putting pressures on associates. I do think that not all of that is nefarious or comes from a place of toxicity. I think some of it is really just comes from a place of poor management. And when I'm not managing my schedule well, all of a sudden there's a deadline and you're putting demands on people when, if the partner were a better manager, you wouldn't have that situation. It's not a situation that can be eliminated. Of course, we live in a world of deadlines and stress, but I think with better management skills, that can be made a little better.
This is so typical of, I think, almost any industry. You promote someone to manager, but you don't give them the tools, which is why I keep saying managers, in this case partners, are not inherently bad people. They're just ill-equipped to do the job that they got. So succession planning, would that probably be something that we should be looking at?
Yeah, I think succession
Prepare
planning,
someone with potential to rise to the top.
I think also, mentoring, not just mentoring the first years and the second years, but mentoring, the people who are about to rise up to the ranks of partners, I think would really go a long way. Because it is kind of sink or swim. And sure, you can be successful, you can get thrown out of the nest and learn to fly. But I think, we could do with a bit more of training and mentorship and so that people are more prepared for that. And I think the other thing that you get, which I think is, of course, different from firm to firm, but I've seen people say this, like at the Institute for Wellbeing in Law conference I attended a few years ago, one of the speakers took a poll, like an anonymous poll, of whether people feel collegiality or competitiveness about their colleagues. And I think because the funnel to make, equity partner is, this very, very, very narrow, I was surprised by how many people felt less collegiality and more competitiveness to their peers, which I think to me is not a place you ever want to be as a business. You want to be a place where you're always helping each other out and thinking that and paying it forward and that's going to be good for you, rather than thinking about it as like a zero-sum game where I'm in competition with this person. I've never thought about my peers that way, but I think a lot of people do. I was surprised at that. I think that's another function of having this very narrow and now increasingly longer path to partner.
It must exist, that attitude that what's in it for me and I don't care about everybody else, which is what I usually call greed. I do what I need to do for my sake at the expense of somebody else. And it's usually greed for money, power, and influence. And yeah, you can have all three, but you can have them in a very humane and kind way and still get it and still be respected. Now, we've been talking a lot about law firms, about partners. What's the equivalent, just quickly, in in-house counsel when you work in corporate? There must be some sort of hierarchy there where you fall over.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the organization, but usually it's the head of legal or general counsel and sort of associate general counsels, and then broadens out to the bottom. So certainly you get that that hierarchy, sort of corporate management hierarchy on the in-house side as well, with different skill sets.
I can just imagine it's going to be almost like a mirror image because it's hierarchical. So whenever you have a hierarchy, there's got to be someone who's less equipped to do their place in the hierarchy than would be expected of them.
Yeah, I think it's similar. Maybe not quite, maybe not exactly mirror image, but when you said that you think of it as greed, that competitiveness, like I think of it as kind of zero-sum thinking, and I think there's a lot of good research that says that you actually get more when you give more, but everyone's inclination is sometimes like, if I give, someone else is going to take. So
Yeah.
I think that's an area we could all use a little bit of work on.
So it's all about relationships, isn't it? And first of all, your relationship with yourself. So let's hear what other people think. What are your experiences? Do you agree with us? Disagree with us? Any new perspectives? By all means, let us have them. Send them our way in the comments and everywhere else where you feel like it. And we see you next time in our next video. Take care. Bye for now.